Come fix up my horse's paddock with me, still 35 weeks pregnant. This paddock is what is supposed to be their temporary home while we work to sell and purchase what will be their final home of our intended Moore Horse Park acreage property. We supply the shelter and hay feeder while board ensures they have hay and water at all times, the paddock is cleaned, and they can be fed their bulls daily. It's been a work in progress under a tight budget. We picked up this steel frame garage with reasonable room and most importantly height clearance for Bravo, which was a main concern of mine. This open wall is a total mess of my own thrown together design, so here I am once again fixing the boards with shims back in place, and this time attempting to keep it all together with added screws. Again, this is all supposed to be temporary and not even planned for getting through this winter. We can of course reuse all this material, but in the meantime it simply has to do. The hay feeder is not quite done, and this interim bale wouldn't have fit anyway, hence why they currently have the hay in the shelter. Both horses are doing amazing at being safe and calm, so I can work around them like this even at 35 weeks pregnant. Darby remains curious about the world, which is great, if unhelpful at times. And you can see here multiple examples of how being allowed to experience the things he's curious about results in a level of familiarity that allows the unhelpful/annoying behaviors to cease. A lot of people would punish their animals for curiosity, which not only ensures fear of the unknown, but prevents them from reaching this stage if you only spare a little patience. At this point, I was pretty fed up with the wall myself, adding to the annoying quality of Darby's not-so-helpful presence and shenanigans. Can you not? Good boy. It's not going to help you scratch. It's nothing to scratch on. Good job. Good job. So bad. Don't eat this. They're not edible. You make a funny sound. I'm not edible. The next main thing I've been wanting to get done here was receiving a specific long length reel from Amazon that would allow me to split the paddock for training each horse individually. Here this is one smaller piece just to cover the shelter. And here's the reel, which you can see how long it gets in a moment. Almost long enough to cover the entire length, but just short, hence the natural connection point. Next, did a complete refresh of the troughs here. One of them belongs to the property owners, the other we purchased ourselves since all of our stuff will be eventually moving with us anyway. And because originally the horses were intended to be separated temporarily for integration, but we let the horses lead and had a successful integration right away, with plentiful resources that saved us some work and headaches. Next, I tidied up the entire paddock, collecting manure into piles to reduce fly pressure these guys have a hard time with. Even though the paddock is gone through with the tractor at reasonable intervals, I like to do this when I'm here anyway for that reason. Also, I just like to take care of my animals' space and do a good job. And perhaps if I send this video to my doctor, she'll stop asking me if I'm getting out for walks during my pregnancy. Since I gained so much weight so fast starting in my first trimester and continued to gain, despite being hit hard with hypothyroidism, every visit feels somewhat like an accusation of either eating too much of the wrong things and/or exercising too little. Though I assure her each time I do not believe either is the case, and am currently having gestational diabetes ruled out by the specialists I never got to see prior due to cracks in the system. I've only been fighting doctors to look deeper than surface level tests for endocrine issues that run in my family for almost my entire life. It seems no doctor wants to take such seriously from a presenting skinny girl, regardless of whether or not she has much money to spend on eating food at various points in her life. I do get to be from a fun medical mystery family. So fun. At least with the tighter thresholds during pregnancy, I've gotten to be on consistently rising dosages of thyroid medication warranted from each monthly retest thus far. But I do digress. Here, the horses don't normally make such a mess, but they have this time due to the hay being in the shelter. What I'm taking out is not all wasted hay from this bale. I don't like wasting hay, so I collect most of what gets spent from various places and have been building it up as shelter bedding. But today a lot of this had to be removed. I then went and tidied up the mud mat area, where I again try to scrape spent hay and whatnot into low areas, especially since it gets wet here from dumping troughs. With the hay bale having gotten to this point, I noticed first of all that the bottom was bad, like it had either been moved to sitting on top of muck or someone had been doing something on top of it, and wouldn't you know, a culprit made himself known pretty much immediately. Because I could drag it myself, I did so, taking out the wet and hot bits and hung the rest from the tree on top of our mud mats, the tree providing plenty of cover here and for the rest of this bale. And with the same plan to finish the hay feeder soon in time for the next one. I again tried to spread the spent hay roughly flat across a low area, partly so it didn't feel as wasted, partly so the horses wouldn't be as inclined to try to pick through it, as it was genuinely bad. And at this point, I was freaking exhausted and forced to call it. Though super excited to be back with almost everything ready to operate smoothly day to day, and getting to restart individual positive reinforcement training sessions with each horse due to the new paddock splitting addition. So feel free to stay tuned to see how integrating individually taught positive reinforcement skills helps me take care of both of these horses, whether separated or with food or not.